This is only for the Imam, but it was given for me to use. Good morning. I'm glad you were able to come to this presentation about the Fairfax County Special Education PTA. We're a county-wide organization, and you know, I expect, about PTAs in your school. Are any of you a member of a PTA? What has the PTA done at your school? Do you know any things it has done? Okay. PTA is a parent-teacher association, and they're organized by school. So each school has if they want, they can have a PTA. And the purpose of the PTA is to help the school and the children. And it takes the help of both teachers and parents working together to help children who are in school. PTAs can raise money to have special events. PTAs can raise money to make a book with the names of all the parents in the school so that you can know to call up somebody else on the phone and say, would Susie like to come to play? My daughter would like Susie to play. And so a PT, that helps the school because it creates more community. PTAs can raise money to provide teachers with some equipment that the school didn't have money for. Or PTAs can have a fun fair sometimes so that the whole family can go and have a good time one afternoon. So PTAs are parent-teacher organizations that help the school. And our special education PTA is similar, but it's for the whole county, because in this school there's a few students who are special education students, but not all of them. And in another school, there's special education students, but not all the students there. And so there's a few students in each school, and we help those students get together, and we help those families get together. Now, special education. Special education is for students with disabilities. What kinds of disabilities might you know about? Autism, yes, autism is a disability, and people with autism have various amounts of the disability. Some of them are very smart, some of them are not smart at all, some of them are very social, some of them don't like to talk to people at all, some of them are very involved, some of them really get nervous. So autism is definitely a disability. People can also have physical disabilities. They may not be able to hear. They may not be able to see. There are also learning disabilities. Learning disabilities is when somebody's brain is a little bit different and it makes it more difficult for them to learn things. They can be just as smart, but have difficulty learning things. So if they have a little bit more attention from the teacher, they can learn the things and they can know them just as well as anybody else after they've learned them. It just takes more time and effort to learn. So, for example, I know someone with a reading disability. It was really, really hard for her to learn to read. And she didn't learn to read until she was in 3rd grade. But she's an adult now and she can read. It was just hard to learn to read. And the same thing for math or other kinds of learning disabilities. And then there's also behavioral disabilities. If someone is really scared, then it's hard to be at school. And so that's a disability also. So many disabilities are invisible. You can't see them when you see the person, but the person actually does have a disability, and making accommodations for that person helps that person. And that's what special education is about. It's about changing education for each child who has a disability. And the school is the federal government, the government of the USA, has laws that say if a person has a disability, schools and workplaces need to accommodate that person so that they can earn a living, so they can learn in school. And so those laws are to protect all the children who have disabilities, and that's where special education happens. One disadvantage, but also an advantage for people with disabilities, is they don't like to be labeled. If I limp, I don't like people to refer to me as that woman with a limp. Or I don't like people who say, she can't run, and then take advantage of me. And so there are laws to protect people with disabilities so that people don't harass them or bully them, or and to protect their privacy. So the schools have to protect the privacy of all the children with disabilities. And because of that, if my child has dyslexia and has difficulty reading, and your child has dyslexia and has difficulty reading, we have something in common, but the school can't tell us. And so it's like, unless I happen to mention it to my friends and my friends know about you, we can never connect because it's a privacy issue. And that makes it hard, because if there's something in your life that's difficult, you'd like to find out what other people do to make it easier in their lives. And if I can't know who else has this problem, I can't talk to them. And that's a real big reason we started a special education PTA, because people come to us if they have a disability, and then, they talk to each other, they get to know each other, they get to find out who else has the same problem as I do. And we get to talk and trade information so that we can help each other. So that's the big reason for our special education PTA. And it's S for special, E for education, PTA. So we call it a SEPTA. Strange word, but that's special education PTA. So a SEPTA. And there is the mission statement for our SEPTA: empowering and connecting families, students, and educators to ensure students with disabilities develop their full potential as individuals and community members. If someone is a little bit different, it's hard for the whole big group of typical people to accommodate this other person. But the law says that the teacher has to do that. The teacher has to make accommodations for this person with disabilities. And we get, by bringing it together, the families with disabilities, we can help share information. And so I'm going to be telling you some of the ways our group helps other families with disabilities. And at the end of the presentation, I'll give you you can take this little card, and this has all the information you need to share with a friend or a neighbor or a relative with someone who has children with disabilities in their family. This has the mission statement on it. It has our website, which this is the opening, that's the opening page on our website. It also has an email address for you to contact us, and we also have a Facebook page. How many of you have a Facebook page? You do? Yeah. So you can help your friends if they don't have a Facebook page. Let's see. YouTube? We're not on YouTube yet. Our organization is for the whole county, all 180 schools. And we have several people from this school, several people from that school. We don't have we have close to 180 members, not from every school, but you can get to know a lot of people through our organization. There's our Facebook page. The Facebook page makes it easy to find other people with similar situations as yours, and it lets you ask questions. It's a closed group, so we have someone who is always paying attention to the Facebook page, and if you request to be on the Facebook page, there is only one question, and it's an easy one to answer, and then you can be part of that Facebook group. And people post information about upcoming events. They post questions. Does anybody know a good physical therapist in a certain area? Does anybody know a good speech-language professor? So you can get recommendations of providers that will help your child. And people bring up situations that happen, and there are both parents and teachers who are part of our special education PTA. We really want to support the teachers. Special education teachers have the highest turnover rate in our schools because they have a very hard job. Sometimes the students injure the teachers by mistake. And sometimes, and if a teacher is injured at school by a student, it makes it hard for them to go to work the next day. One of the people in our SEPTA got a concussion from a student. He's a high school student. He's big. He didn't mean to hit her, but he hit her so hard that she had to go to the doctor. And that's the kind of thing that would really discourage a teacher from going to school the next day. And so we want to support our teachers because they're doing a very important job for our students. So teachers are a big part of our organization. Another way that we help parents is we have presentations and meetings. For example, at our last meeting, the ombudsman came to tell us about his work. And I understand that he came here to tell you about his work too. And his work is very important. Last year, 1/3 of the people who came to him with problems were people who had special education students. And so this year, there are 2 ombudsmen, one a woman and one a man. And so the woman is dedicated to the special education problems, and the man is dedicated to everybody else. Plus, the man is officially now able to take teacher problems too. And that was something that our special education PTA kept telling the administration. This is very important. The teachers need to be protected. They don't want, if they point out a problem, they don't want to lose their job because they pointed out a problem that the school could fix. And so now they can go to the ombudsman and say, this is a problem, and they are protected. So that has been something that our organization helped change. Up here, I have a calendar of events that you can take. And I'm going to put these all out over here so that right after my talk, you can just go by and pick everything up. This is a list on our website of upcoming community events. Fairfax County is big and it has lots of resources. There are many organizations that are helping families with disabilities. There are 2 or 3 autism organizations. There are 3 or 4 organizations for ADHD. There are other organizations for Down syndrome, and they have good, important information for families with children with disabilities. So the list of upcoming community events lists all of those that I can find in Fairfax County. And look at all of them. That is just for 1 month. That's all for just 1 month. A lot of resources. And unless you spend a lot of time on the internet, you wouldn't know about all those. So that's one thing that our special education PTA provides. Okay, let's see. Okay, here's another. Ongoing support groups for youth and parents. Here are some support groups for youth. These are kids who are in high school and above, and then support groups for parents. This makes it really easy to find other people who have similar problems as your family, similar problems as your children. And if you go to here is, this one right here is Autism Dads. And that way, dads of kids with autism can get together. Usually they go out someplace where they can have a beer and talk. And or some other kind of social gathering for the dads. And that way they can talk about how it is for them and how they're helping their children. Here's one for CHAD. That's children and adults with attention deficit or disorder. And here are 4 groups that meet once a month or twice a month, someplace in our county, where parents can go and get support for their family. Here's one at the Gatlin Center. Here's another one, Dads Appreciating Down Syndrome. So this is a group specifically for dads. Here's the Fairfax Juvenile Court Parent Support Group. Sometimes young adults have a hard time learning how to control their behavior, and they may be making problems at home. This support group can help parents if their children are having behavior problems. Kinship Caregivers Support Group. This is a support group for grandparents or aunts or uncle who are taking care of somebody else's child. That's called kinship caregiving. So all of these support groups, we can help connect you to them. Mini grants. Our Special Education PTA, our SEPTA, raises money so that we can give grants to teachers. Special education teachers, if they want to do something for their children in the classroom that doesn't come out of their normal budget, they don't have enough money in the normal budget to spend. Last year we gave a grant for one teacher to have special seating in her classroom, seats that rock, seats that balls are rocking, or other furniture that helps her children pay attention that she couldn't get regularly from the school. And that was really helpful for her. Another teacher wanted to take her children on a field trip, but her children couldn't travel because they had so many medical needs, they couldn't leave the school on a field trip. So we gave that teacher some money to bring the field trip to the school. They brought a whole bunch of different animals to the classroom so that that class could have a field trip in school instead of going someplace else. Another mini grant we gave was for to have a workshop for the siblings of kids with disabilities. If you have 2 kids in your family and one has a lot of special needs and the other one is just normal, you probably need to spend more time and attention on the child with special needs, and then that normal child kind of gets feeling, well, aren't I? Yeah. And so when you get a bunch of those children together and talk with them a little bit and have them play together, yeah, my sister has Down syndrome too. Or, yeah, my brother has autism too. And so helping those children figure out that they're important, but that their parents have to, in some cases, pay more attention to their sibling. Just knowing that somebody else is in the same situation and is learning how to deal with that too is helpful. So that's what we do the mini grants for. This is the teachers who got awards last year from our program. Families are encouraged to submit reasons for who is a good teacher. Because if a teacher is really good, we want other people to know about it so that they can learn from that teacher. And so if you put a lot of work into your classroom as a teacher, having somebody notice that work helps you feel good and helps you keep on doing it next year so that you don't give up. It's like, nobody cares. And so these are teachers who received awards from us last year, and we let every supervisor above that teacher know that that teacher is receiving an award and some of the things they were commended for doing. We had 140 people who were nominated for awards, and we had 20 different categories, some teachers, some school personnel like administrators, some specialists like psychologists or speech and language people, some people who worked at the school, such as cafeteria workers. If a cafeteria worker helps a child every day and helps that child feel good about themselves, that's important. And so we had a bus driver who got one of the awards because he really made sure that child was comfortable on the bus, that nobody hassled that kid, and that child really wanted to go to school because he wanted to see his bus driver who was taking him. And so that was important. Advocacy is speaking up for things that are important. Here is the past president of our special education PTA. Here is one of the parents in our special education PTA. She has a child who cannot speak. Her child will probably never be able to speak because of her condition. But she has a device, a small computer, an iPad or something like that she uses to communicate. And she pushes pictures on her device to make sentences. And she's learning and then her device will say it out loud. So she uses the device to speak. Her mother, and this is her mother here, had laryngitis last year. So she used her child's device and pushed buttons and entered words, and she gave a presentation to the school board using her child's device to tell how important it was for teachers to take the time to help the child learn to speak. Because if you have to use a device to learn to speak, someone has to show you how to do it. And if your teacher hasn't learned how to use the device, the teacher can't teach the child. And sometimes that happens in the schools. And so by making the presentation to the school board on how important these devices are for the children and how the children need to be shown how to do it and teachers need to learn, she made quite an impression to the school board. And the school board, they're the ones who control how the money is used in the schools. So that's one of the things that our special education PTA, we go and advocate with the school board, and we teach other people how they can do it too. Okay, so those are some of the things that our special education PTA does to help families with students with disabilities and to help teachers who are teaching those children. I also brought a book. If any of you wanted to have a book on the special education process, this is one I recommend. They have it at the library. So you can write the title down and the author and go to the library and get it. And it covers the whole process of special education so that you can know how to do it. I'll leave the book up here. I'll put all the papers, and there's a sign-up sheet that if you want to get information from our special education PTA, this is where you sign up. You don't need to sign up if you don't want to. Another paper, I think that everyone should take one of these before you leave so that you have it to give to someone else you know. Here is another paper. If you have a child with a special need or you know someone who does, this is a list of resources that are available. There's two sides, and like the ombudsman is listed here and how to get in touch with him. and the school board, and it also has all of our information for, and it has other websites at the school, for the school, to explain the special education process. If you know someone who has a child with a disability, this is our schedule of presentations and meetings for the year. And this is the, if you want to become a member, this is the membership form. So I'll put all of those over there, and I'll be happy to talk to anyone. I should probably stop right now and say, do you have any questions? Our services are specifically for Fairfax County, and that includes the private schools as well as the public schools. Most of the community events on our website, most are for Fairfax County, but some are in the neighboring counties, because the people who are close to Loudoun might just go to a presentation that's even closer in Loudoun than another presentation in Fairfax County, or the same in Alexandria. But Alexandria Public Schools is a separate school system, and Falls Church City Schools is a separate school system, but we're happy for anybody to join our organization. Arlington also has a SEPTA. Their SEPTA is older than ours. We're 2.5 years old. They're almost 10 years old. So we learned from them how to start our organization. And Loudoun is just now thinking about starting a SEPTA, and Prince William County is also thinking of starting a SEPTA. Other questions? Well, the reason you didn't hear about us was, one, we didn't exist for part of that time. We're only 2 years old. Yeah, and it takes time to get our word out. That's why I came today, so that you would know. So that 3 years from now you say, you're 5 years old and I hadn't heard about you. But it takes time. And now that you're hearing about us, you can tell your friends. You can tell your school. Does your school have a PTA? Yes. And one person, PTAs have different jobs with members doing different jobs. There'll be a president, a secretary, and a treasurer, but there can also be someone who's in charge of the fun fair, and there can be also someone who's in charge of the website, and there's another person who is in charge of messages to parents in email. You could be the person who's in charge of letting people know about special education.